Hi, I'm Kathy. I'm the Adult Services Librarian in Waynesville and the Program Director of the Seed Lending Library. We're outside here today at the Giving Garden at the Canton Library, and today I'm going to talk to you about seed saving. So, before we get started on the actual process of saving seeds, I'd like to just take a moment to explain to you very quickly what a seed actually is. So plants produce seeds in order to reproduce. Just like an egg has to be fertilized to become an animal, a seed has to be pollinated to produce a plant. So understanding pollination is the key to getting seeds to produce the plants that you want. So some plants are self-pollinating. Male and female parts are contained in a single flower and it fertilizes itself. A good example of that is a tomato. Other plants are called cross-pollinators. They have separate male and female flowers, and their pollen has to get from one flower to another by pollination in order for the seed to become pollinated. A good example of that is a melon. The seeds from plants that are self-pollinating, like tomatoes or beans, are very easy to save because they're not as likely to cross-pollinate. Seeds from plants that are cross-pollinators, like a melon or a cucumber, any kind of squash, they are a little more difficult because it takes effort to keep them separate so that the cross-pollination does not occur. So there's two types of seeds, mainly open pollinated, which is like the tomato that we mentioned, an heirloom. It's also known as an heirloom when it's been around for generations and generations and is stable. So you're going to keep getting the same type of tomato each time. For example, the mortgage lifter. It's been around since the early 1900s. That is true to type. It's an open pollinated heirloom seed. An example of a hybrid seed is a sun gold tomato. A lot of you are familiar with that. It's a little orange, very sweet cherry tomato. That is a hybrid, so you cannot save seeds from that because it is not true to type. It will not necessarily produce the same variety every single time. So the Seed Lending Library only accepts open pollinated seeds. We do not accept hybrid seeds. So there's two ways of saving seeds. There's two different processes. One is called wet. That's what we're going to do with the cantaloupe and the tomato. The other is dry. We'll do that with the pepper and the dill. So first, let's work on the wet process. Open up your fruit. Typically, it's best to let your fruit become very, very ripe, even past the point of where you would want to eat it. That helps the seeds to become very viable and full of energy. So you're just going to scoop out the seeds into a mason jar. You're going to cover them with water. This is what is known as the fermentation step. It's necessary because of yeast and bacteria that will eat any of the seed-borne diseases that might affect the next generation of seeds. Shake it up really good. This will help to separate the little gelatinous packet that's around the seeds. I then take the lid off and I put on a coffee filter. Let it sit for about 3 or 4 days, somewhere away from direct sunlight in your kitchen. The viable seeds will sink. The less viable seeds will likely float, and you can just scoop those off. And it will begin to smell sour, but not unpleasant. And at that point, you can take the seeds out, put them on a paper towel, on a paper plate, or even on a drying screen like you see right here. Those are your options for wet. We're going to do the same with the tomato. This is just the little seed packets. You just kind of squirt them down into your jar. And then that gelatinous sac that's around there, which by the way has most of the flavor. So when you have a summer tomato sandwich with mayonnaise on soft white bread, you definitely want to leave those little seed packets in there because that is where the delicious tomato flavor comes from. Cover it with water. Put your lid on, shake vigorously, and then add your coffee filter and you're ready to go. This will ferment in about 3 to 4 days time. Dry seeds are seeds that are in, for example, a pepper. You can see they're not encased in that gelatinous sac. They're just hanging on the edge here, and they're very easy to just remove with your finger. Don't even need to rinse them. Simply put them on a paper towel like this. Let them dry in a place that's away from sunlight, and within a few days they'll be ready to store. Right. Another seed that fits in well with the dry processing is beans. Normally you would allow these to dry on the vine, so they wouldn't be green anymore. They would have a real dark brown, leathery looking pod, and then you would just pop them open, and inside you would find your bean seeds would be dried up and hard. They wouldn't look plump and white like this. But because it's so early in the season, I didn't have any that were already dry on the vine. So I usually harvest beans in October. So you let them just dry on the vine. Another processing dry herbs would be dill. This dill stalk is from my garden. The top of it, if you let it go to seed, forms a seed head. Just clip that off. Put it in a paper bag. Hang it upside down. I just clip it to a shelf in my basement. Let it dry like this. When it's dry, all the dill seeds will be in the bottom. You can take the stalk out, throw it out, and you've got a bag full of dill seed. So that's the basic seed cleaning process, wet and dry, depending on which fruit or herb you're going to save seed from. Always save it from mature fruits, past the point where you would want to eat them. Let them get really, really big, and then in turn the seeds will be bigger and more viable. You always want to make sure your seeds are completely dry before you store them, or you will encourage mold. So leave them in a place where the air circulation is very good. You can also use a winnowing screen. I forgot to mention this. For herbs, you can put them on here, rub like this. The chaff will fall through or blow off the top, and then you'll be left with seeds on your screen. Sometimes I use a fan to help with that, or you can just do it the old-fashioned way. Put your herbs on here, ruffle them up so that the chaff gets separated from the seed head, and just blow, and all the chaff will blow off. If you're interested in saving seeds and you've never done it before, I have a handy seed saving brochure that you can access from the Haywood County Library page at haywoodlibrary.org, and hover over services and click on Seed Library. Or you can contact me directly if you have any questions. I'd be happy to help. Kathleen.olson@haywoodcountync.gov. Thanks for watching.
For more information about seed saving, we have several books that you can check out from the Haywood County Public Library or from the North Carolina Digital Library as an ebook.